Okay, we can start. So
Okay.
I'm very happy that we're spending this time together and looking into the astrology of what's ahead in this very special time. Yeah, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit so that everyone...
Hi, Deborah. I'm Swati Kameswar. I'm an astrologer and coach and engineer, and astrology is my passion, actually. And through astrology, I help people to find balance and calm in times of transition and change.
That's very beautiful, and I think what many people will need at the moment to
Right,
have this balance inside. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So before we go into the questions that I've prepared for you, I will introduce myself also for everyone who doesn't know me yet. My name is Deborah Kindermann. I'm from Austria and I'm an intuitive channel. So I tap into energy, and that's kind of how we met when I shared my perception around what's going on collectively at the moment. I hold space for people to come home inside themselves and reconnect with their gifts, with their power, with their truth. And at the moment, I feel it so strongly that it's important to come home in the balance of our divine feminine and masculine, so that we can first create the balance inside and then let it spread out and ripple out into the field. Yeah.
That's beautiful, Deborah. Thank you. And that is just so, like you said, so needed right now.
Mm.
Balance within ourselves so that we can come out in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's dive into the astrology.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to give maybe an overview of what you see? Maybe, I don't know, because in the questions, I think I focused on the next 3 months. But if you want to give a bigger perspective, maybe for the year or something, that would be fine too.
Okay. So the life-changing astrology of 2020. You know, we've been studying the astrological transits for the last many years, and 2020 was always seen as a big turning point
Mm-hmm.
because of the astrology that was, that we could see coming up. And actually, the year started off with a bang with what is known as a Saturn-Pluto conjunction on January 12th of this year. And that means Saturn and Pluto meet at the same area in the sky. And that is a pretty rare transit. And usually, when that happens, it means that there is major change going to be coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, one thing to understand is that it's not just that day that it affects, even though they met once on Jan 12th, as they're coming closer and closer, we are already feeling the effects of that energy.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of us might have started to feel the change happening from last year, or maybe even before that. If you're sensitive to energy, you might have felt a lot of stuff happening underneath the surface. And so Pluto means deep transformational change, and Saturn refers to structures. And they met in the sign of Capricorn, which is the sign, it's an earth sign, and it represents our physical structures. So when they meet together, it means that old structures are crumbling, they are coming to an end,
Mm-hmm.
and it is time to build the new structure. So, and that's what we are seeing playing out in our reality now.
Mm-hmm.
With this collective situation that we are in, that old structures are indeed crumbling. And the reason this is important is that we really want to understand what needs to change before we start to rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
Like, instead of rushing and rebuilding in the same way, the old structures are coming to an end for a reason. And the point that Saturn and Pluto met at 22 degrees Capricorn, that is significant because in the astrology, that point gets activated multiple times during the year. Jupiter and Pluto meet at that point too, and Pluto comes back to that point several times, which just means that it's a constant process of change. It's not one, like one day and it's done, but there is that constant evaluation over and over again during the year about what needs to change. So, like I said, Pluto means deep change, Saturn means structures, and Jupiter is a principle of expansion. So, to summarize, our structures are crumbling, and we need to be careful of what we build, and then Jupiter expands whatever we build. So, you want to be sure that what you're building is based on a strong foundation. And then the year ends with Jupiter and Saturn meeting together, which is like it can be seen as a very, very positive thing if we have built the right structures. So that sort of summarizes the major change taking place during the year.
Well, on the one hand, I find it quite reassuring, because I think many of our listeners will be the same, that they have been feeling for the past years that the current systems are not supporting us anymore. And they have already been working towards creating change, and probably also building strong foundations for creating change in their lives. So, but at the same time, no one knows how it will all play out. So there is a great deal of uncertainty as well. So it will be, I mean, it's already the challenge for all of us to kind of find the balance between the uncertainty and staying connected to our own vision and taking these steps forward.
Yes. Yeah. You're so right in saying that those who have been sensing this change coming up, there have been many people who have been doing their inner work. They have been letting go of what's not working for them. They have been working to build a strong foundation. And if for those people, this time of change is not exactly surprising, and they are able to be a little bit more resilient about handling it. And for those for whom it is surprising, it can be a very difficult time. If change is made without our conscious consent, then it becomes there's a period of grief that we go through to mourn the loss of what is gone, and that can be a hard time.
Yeah, I find even when it's conscious, it can be hard at the same time.
It can be hard.
And bring up a lot of resistance.
Yeah, that's the thing with Pluto. When we go through Pluto transits, either personally or collectively, it digs up a lot of old emotional baggage. It digs up stuff that we have suppressed and not wanted to deal with. So it all comes up to the surface of our awareness, and then the work is to integrate that shadow and that, to kind of feel our feelings, allow ourselves to feel whatever feelings that come up, and come to a place of sort of letting go or surrender. With Pluto, there's a lot of surrender. Like, you can't push through it. You can't control it. You don't know what's coming up ahead. And so there is that sense of, okay, I'm just going to let go and trust that it's going to work out. Yeah,
that's a beautiful bridge into the divine feminine energy that we were planning to talk about. So maybe you can give us a little more insight around how divine feminine and masculine energies are going to be affected during the coming months.
Yeah, astrologically, there's a lot going on in that regard. another big transit that is happening right now is that Uranus is in the sign of Taurus. And Taurus refers to our foundations and our physical world. And Uranus is a change agent. It brings an end to old patterns so that we can awaken to new and better patterns.
Mm-hmm.
So, along with the Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter conjunctions that are going on, we also have Uranus bringing in this element of chaos, of suddenly breaking old patterns.
Mm-hmm.
It can come as a shock or it can come as a delightful surprise depending on where you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but the whole idea there is that in the sign of Taurus, we are being asked to really dive deep into understanding what are our deepest values. Instead of doing things on autopilot, really tuning in to ask ourselves, what do I really want? What is of value to me? What has greatest meaning to me?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of rushing off and doing things the same way, like taking action in the usual way, we are being asked to slow down, pause, tune in, and then build from that. So both, I feel that there is an aspect of the being more aware of the feminine and masculine energies within us.
Mm-hmm.
Like first tuning in to the feminine desire, to the real deep soul desire that's coming up, and then the masculine taking action based on that. And that's on a personal level. But even on a collective level, the planets Venus and Mars, which represent the feminine and masculine aspects in our chart and collectively, both are going to be going retrograde this year in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And when planets go retrograde, and a lot of the planets, outer planets, go retrograde every year, but Venus and Mars do that once in 2 years, and this time they're both happening in the same year and they are at around the same time. So
Yeah.
there is this sense of going within.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of rushing to go out and build, both we're being asked to really integrate the shadow aspects of both of them,
Mm-hmm.
tune in and integrate both of them, and then take it outside.
Yeah, I mean, it's already happening collectively that we're being
Yeah,
forced to stay inside and that a lot of
right,
the outside distractions are being taken away.
right.
So,
Yes.
um, yeah, I see
And
it also as a big invitation to drop inside and
right,
get in touch with these aspects of oneself again.
right. And really, this opportunity is not to be squandered. For those who are going through very much like physical difficulties right now, of course, there is that period of, it's a very hard time for them, really. But for those who have the ability to spend some time looking inwards, that it's um, it's not a chance that we want to throw away,
Mm,
because what I see is Jupiter meets Saturn at the end of the year, and Jupiter is a principle of expansion, and Saturn refers to structures. So it will build, it will expand the structures that we are setting now. So we want to be very careful of what we build going ahead,
mm-hmm.
and we want to expand what we really want, right? So this is the time to look deep inside and get clear on your values. Yeah.
Yeah, that that sounds really beautiful when I think about it on an individual level. It's really reassuring to keep nourishing my personal visions and my collective visions. I was just wondering, now that I heard you talking, how you see this with regards to what's happening on a political level at the moment, because it's kind of, I feel like there's kind of this conflict between trying to keep everyone safe and at the same time implying measures that restrict our freedom. So with regards to building foundations that will expand, I was just wondering what your take is on that. I mean, it will depend from country to country, I guess.
Yes, yeah. And it's just so interesting you say that about restrictions, because, you know, around the time, at least in the United States, around the time we started to get news about the lockdowns happening, Saturn had entered Aquarius. Saturn entered Aquarius at that time, and I found the timing so interesting. Saturn refers, you know, Saturn can be seen as a very restrictive energy. It can be seen as, it's very often seen like that because it refers to our boundaries and the framework within which we are meant to work. And Aquarius is an air sign. It's the most expanded air sign and often represents the quality of freedom. So, you know, restricting freedom. That's one way to look at it, and that can bring up the rebel in all of us. Or we look at where within that boundary we are meant to exercise our freedom. So even though we are in our homes and we are not able to go out as much, but really knowing that this is an internal time, how can you exercise your power of choice and use that wisely within that framework? And Saturn also represents in a big way taking responsibility, you know, being mature, taking responsibility. So how can we take responsibility for our own personal lives at this moment? How can we take responsibility for nurturing our own, you know, our close relationships, our families, ourselves, most importantly ourselves during this time, so that when the restrictions are removed, you can go out and function in a different way, in a more aligned way. So that's my take on it. I think the influence of Saturn plays out a lot during the year. It's a big, you know, there's a big it's a big energy this year, and always it comes down to where are we not taking responsibility, and where do we need to take that personal responsibility.
Yeah, that seems like a very big theme really at the moment.
Yeah.
Responsibility.
Right. And I think it applies to every single one of us. It's not that there is a certain group of people who are responsible, and if they don't do their job well, then everyone else should blame them. And of course, you know, leaders need to show up in the best way possible. But I always look at where do I need to take responsibility first in my own life. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take a look at my list here. Oh yeah. What support do you see is available to us, especially during these coming months, that helps us navigate the uncertainty and being a bit more restricted?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say that this is a really good time to put into practice any kind of nurturing, you know, routines and rituals that you have and practices that we have. It's time to really take that up a notch. That, you know, things like spiritual practices, you know, whether it's meditation or painting. Like for me, painting is a very spiritual act. Like it opens up, it helps me open up to my intuition like nothing else does. Being in nature, anything that allows the left brain analytical mind to calm down and allows our creativity to flow, or anything that helps you get in touch with deeper meaning of life, I think that is really key, because that will help us to tune into our heart's desires more easily and then build from that place. Yeah. And I'm sure you could add a lot more of the practices that you do as well.
Yeah, immediately when you started talking, I felt like it's also a really big invitation to let go of all the pressure and all the perfectionism that we tend to carry, and
Right.
really take a break and appreciate what you have and what's
Yeah.
there and what's good.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
That's already such a powerful practice, I feel. One because we take these things for granted.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
now we're really kind of forced to acknowledge that
Yes.
actually we're really blessed
Yes.
how we can live.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's beautiful, because what you talked about, expressing that gratitude for what we have, that is one of the big teachings of Uranus in Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
Uranus in Taurus says, stop hoarding, stop looking out for more and more stuff, but pause and really acknowledge what you already have.
Mm-hmm.
Give gratitude for what you have, because Taurus is about really sinking into this physical existence, life on earth, and appreciating the beauty and the abundance that the earth is providing us.
Uh,
Like really having deep gratitude for that.
mm-hmm.
And it's just, for me personally, it's springtime here in Austin, Texas. And I'm just so grateful that I'm getting the chance to go out more than I would normally have done.
Mm-hmm.
And go out meaning I'm not going out like socially interacting with people, but I'm just going out for walks,
Mm-hmm.
something that I was not doing on a regular basis earlier. So I'm being able to enjoy that spring weather in a beautiful way.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel, yeah, that really touches me that it's also connected. And um, I did a meditation with someone who held a group meditation yesterday, and then we were invited to tune into our vision for the time after this lockdown. And it made me realize that what I long for, it's so simple. It's really this connection with nature, connection with other human beings in celebratory ways, where everyone is free to express themselves through art or through, I don't know, singing and dancing and coming together. And I always see this outside somewhere in nature, where everything is connected, and then you don't need all this extra stuff that we
Yeah.
kind of thought we needed. So
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
really interesting time.
Yeah. And you summed it up so beautifully. I mean, our needs are so simple, right?
Mm,
And that's exactly what this period is inviting us to see, that what we really value is so simple.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. um, okay. Do you see any challenges that would be good to know about, so that we can maybe navigate them more easily in the coming months?
Yeah. That's such a good question, because I mean, this current period can be seen as a challenge for many because change is happening so obviously. And I think the challenge with change is that we might be resistant to it. And there's a lot of emotions that'll come up that honestly we don't want to necessarily suppress. The grief and the anger, the sadness that comes up. We want to allow ourselves a safe space to release that.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on whatever our personal situation is, you might have all kinds of emotions coming up. And it's really important around this time to allow a safe space to express that. Um, I think that's one key thing,
Mm-hmm.
because as a culture, as a society, we are taught that having emotional reactions is bad.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to be stoic and suppress it and not let it out and not
Yeah.
let others see that part of us. And I feel like that is not the right way. We really want to express that safely. And once we have expressed it, then we are able to tune in better to what do I really want
Mm-hmm.
and how do I go ahead. Our next step becomes a lot easier to see if we have allowed ourselves that space of grieving. So very, very important to pay attention to the emotional aspects, because Pluto transit, and Pluto is such another one of the major players in the astrology of this year. It will bring up suppressed emotions. So what is happening now may be a trigger, but it may bring up stuff we have suppressed for years and years and maybe even lifetimes. So that is one thing to pay attention to. And that can seem challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking back to all the releasing processes that I went
Yes.
through in my own life.
Yes.
And I know that at times I found it really hard to keep going and to
Yes.
trust that this is only a part of the whole process.
Yeah.
But now I can really see that releasing these emotions opens up the access to our life force
Oh,
and
yes.
creativity. So I just want to encourage everyone who feels kind of stuck or hopeless or overwhelmed by, I don't know, grief or anger or any of these negative emotions. It's really worth kind of supporting yourself to move through this and being gentle with yourself as you
Yes.
embrace this,
Yeah.
because it's such a valuable part of the journey that is
Yeah.
so hard but so liberating at the same time.
Yeah. I love what you said about expressing these emotions gives us access to our life force, because that has been my exact experience with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not pleasant to go through it. Like, it's not pleasant to express the anger or the grief and to do it over and over again and support yourself to do it over and over again. But
Yeah.
I see such a huge difference
Mm-hmm.
in, like I feel once having done that, getting access to the life force is uh, that's exactly the point
Mm-hmm.
of the Pluto transit. It helps you to strip away all this stuff that is false and access that life force inside.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
love that. And then that's
yeah,
amazing to know that Pluto is going to support us with that.
yeah. And it won't be easy though. But that is part of the work, that inner work that must be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we should wrap it up. And yeah, we've already talked about the global events and bigger picture. So anything else you feel like people should know, or um, maybe, yeah, the last question I wrote down is if you think there's a difference between how men and women will respond to these divine feminine and masculine energy aspects, or maybe it's more a personal experience anyway.
Yeah. Um, I think it really is. It depends on the person. It's a very personal thing, and each one of us has the masculine and feminine energies. It really depends on what each person is going through, like what
Mm-hmm.
their personal situation is, what transits are activating their chart. It depends on that. I think the key thing for everyone to remember is to just be very kind to yourself during this whole process.
Mm,
I think kindness to self is important, irrespective of what you're going through or how severe the changes are. Just holding
mm,
yourself with absolute compassion as you walk through this time.
yeah, and if possible, connecting with like-minded people,
Yes,
because that will bring in much more understanding and the
right.
knowing that it's possible to come out the other side, and that
Yes,
we're not alone in this, and that
right.
we're all in our different stages of this journey. So yeah, and I feel like we're all here to support each other to process all these subconscious things that we carry, and
yes,
will be an interesting year. Definitely.
yes, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I feel like I will have to listen to this again and again to kind of take in all the wisdom that you shared and understand, because I like to read about astrology, but I don't have a very special knowledge about all the planets. So I feel like I will come back to this several times so that I can take it all in. And yeah, would you like to share a little bit how people can find you and how you support them, or what offerings you have?
Yeah. First of all, Deborah, thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure to connect with you in this way. People can check out my website at www.activateyourpower.wordpress.com. And there are a lot of free resources on the website, and you can subscribe to my mailing list where you'll get to know about transits for the year. But I work with people in multiple ways. If anyone wants to get an astrology chart reading, there's information on my website about that. I also have a coaching program that I do. It's one-on-one and small group coaching, and it's perfect for coaches and leaders and healers, those who are holding space for others. It's called The Power of Balance, and it uses your personal astrology to help you find balance and calm during times of transition and change. So it's a very powerful program to help support yourself and get in tune with yourself and the transits that you're going through now, so that you can serve in a much more expanded way. So yeah, I'll send you the links. You can put it
Yeah,
out.
exactly. We will include the links so that it's easy for people to find it. Yeah, thank you. That sounds really interesting and like such valuable offers.
Thank you.
And I wanted to share also a little bit for those who are new to me. We will include the website link so that you can easily click it. My website is deborahkindermann.com, and I offer one-on-one work with people so that we can really, I will tune into your energy field and we can really work with what's there and release what's there. And I'm holding space for you to do it yourself. So it's really usually a very empowering process. I also do written soul readings. They work a bit differently. They are like anchors for you to have your knowledge, because it's what I channel is coming from you. So it's really your soul wisdom in written form that gives you reassurance, and usually people carry it with them for a few months or even years, because yeah, it's really distilled into written form. And I have a program that is starting after Easter, where we will really go into the divine feminine and masculine aspects and work with creating this balance inside, and discovering all the gifts and transforming the shadow aspects of the divine feminine and masculine, so that yeah, you can really embody it. So I think the most important aspect, and I also heard this in your work, and I feel like it's really also a theme about this year and the coming years, is the embodiment, to really bring it down and be the lighthouse that we need in these times
Right.
of change.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, let's wrap it up. Thank you so much, everyone who was listening. And if there are any questions that came up, then feel free. I think I can say this for the both of us, I hope, to get in touch.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been
Yeah,
such a pleasure to be here.
me too. Yeah, we can do this again sometime.
Yes, absolutely.
So, okay. Thank you so much, everyone, and bye bye.
Bye.